Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ox Talks. It is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. Hope you're having a productive day today. Thank you for tuning into the show. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. I did see a tick up in the subs in the last 24 hours. I don't know how much of that is attributed to you guys that were unsubscribed and then went back on and subscribed, or maybe some new viewers. But either way, I very much appreciate it. Please continue to hit the thumbs up button for me and the bell notification. Most importantly, let's please share the videos with as many family and friends as you can, so we can continue to wake people up. That's what it's all about. As a community, I think we have an obligation, at least do our best, to warn those that will listen. If they decide after repeated warnings not to take our advice and our suggestions, then they're on their own. I mean, you can only do so much. I will probably not be able to get a video done tomorrow. I'm going to be in a deposition all day. It starts early in the morning. And, you know, depositions in California, we're allowed to keep a witness for a non-expert witness for up to 7 hours on the record, meaning when the court reporter is recording what's being said and I'm examining the witness under oath. So with breaks and a lunch break, 7 hours on the record becomes, an 8.5 or 9 hour day. By the time I finish that tomorrow evening, I'm unlikely to be able to get a video done. I have a function I have to go to tomorrow night for a client. So I will see you all again on Friday. Let's jump into today's stories. I have a couple of good articles. Well, I don't use the word good, but I think they're very important. I want to share with you. So the stock market continues to whistle past the graveyard. All indexes were up again today. Some friends of mine were texting gleefully after the market closed because Disney reported earnings and they increased their dividend and doing all these things. It doesn't really obviously interest me necessarily, but if you're in the market, things continue to be happy times. For those that are not in that scenario and are working very hard to just put food on the table and that are maybe having to use lines of credit or credit cards just to get by, it is a totally different story, as we know. So this article came out just a few hours ago from Zero Hedge. I want to share it with you. It's entitled "Stunning Collapse in Credit Card Debt. Change as Average APR Hits New All-Time High." It says, after several months of wild swings in U.S. consumer debt, culminating with last month's explosion in credit card debt, which was the second biggest on record. In December, households finally hit, it says, a brick wall, because according to the latest consumer credit data published by the Federal Reserve just moments ago, in the last month of 2023, it says consumer debt rose by a paltry $1.561 billion, which was not only nearly a 90% miss to consensus estimates of $15.9 billion, but also, it says, a huge slowdown from November's numbers, tumbling by almost $22 billion, the third biggest monthly drop since the pandemic shutdown of the economy. So you have a dramatic drop in the usage of credit. It says what the big shock was in today's data was the absolute collapse in revolving credit. In other words, credit card debt, which in December collapsed from $15.4 billion increase in November, the second biggest on record, to just $1 billion, the second smallest monthly increase, with just June 2023 as that contraction as a great outlier. The article continues, and it says, but not least the slowdown in debt, and especially credit card debt, is hardly a surprise, since the Fed also reported that in quarter four, the average rate listen to this, across all commercial banks on all credit card amounts just hit a new record high of 21.47%. Think about that. Many people are locked in at 30-year mortgages at 3%, 3.5%. You're still being able to borrow money now for credit cards and autos at 8.5%, obviously with good credit. Credit card rates, doesn't matter whether you have excellent credit or not, you're paying 21.47% on those credit card balances. Well, this article says that with consumers increasingly reluctant to max out their credit cards due to record high rates at a time when the personal savings rate in the U.S. has collapsed from over 5% to just 3.7%, the lowest since 2022 in just a few months. And it concludes by saying, now it's only a matter of time before U.S. GDP prints deep negative now that the pillar supporting 70% of the U.S. economy, and that's consumer purchases, is about to crack. So obviously we know it's a consumer debt-based economy. The GDP relies on consumers swiping those cards, buying things and spending. I want to know what you think about this. The conclusion of the article basically is that Americans and consumers have pulled back in using their credit cards due to the higher ongoing interest rates that are accumulating on those balances. But you know what? I wonder if it's something bigger than that. I really wonder if basically the reduction in use of credit is because there is no more credit to use. These people have tapped out their credit lines. We know the credit card companies and the banks are not continuing to extend a lot of credit lines, especially if you're carrying, large balances against your available credit limit. So, is it just because the rate is high? I mean, if you have to use your credit card for food and for necessities, does it really matter if that rate's 21% or 12%? You're going to have to use that credit card to survive. So I think, this is just my interpretation or my 2 cents, is that it really is the fact that people used everything up. They maxed stuff out. And so you're not seeing an increase in credit usage because there is no more line to tap. So it's probably all the factors, but I think that's really, really important to see because yes, it will have a forward-looking impact on GDP. 70% of GDP is based on the consumers' spending. So let's see how this translates going forward into the next couple of months as this data is released. But look at another crack or hole or leak in the dam, so to speak. Another needle on this haystack. So let's see how it plays out. But it does not look promising, as we know, for consumers. And boy, the ones that have tapped those lines or maxed them out, how are they going to be able to pay just interest payments at almost 22% and also keep up all their other bills and their insurance, their medical, food purchases, just general living expenses? So keep a watch on this. Next article talks about Janet Yellen. She was speaking yesterday. Reuters did an article on this. It says Yellen's concerned about U.S. commercial real estate, but says the stresses are manageable. The same one that said many years ago that we'll never see another crisis in our lifetime. And then, of course, had to step in with BVB bank failure and shore up all the banks to basically try to prevent contagion. So Yellen says on Tuesday, she's concerned about looming commercial real estate stresses on banks and property owners, but believes the situation is manageable with the assistance from bank regulators. Yellen told House Financial Services Committee hearing that refinancings of commercial real estate loans coming due amid higher interest rates and high vacancies due to shifting work patterns is going to put a lot of stress, she says, on the owners of these properties. Some banks also may come under stress due to lower demand for commercial real estate. I'm concerned, quote, she says, I'm concerned. I believe it's manageable, although there may be some institutions that are quite stressed by this problem. Boy, that is the best she can do to sugarcoat what obviously is a looming crisis. Someone always comes out and says, don't worry, everything's fine. Now she's saying, I'm concerned, but of course, with the added words, but it's manageable. It's always manageable until it isn't. She says, obviously, that we will do whatever is necessary to prevent a second wave of bank failures. She declined to comment on individual bank situations, but added, quote, I would work with the banking supervisors to make sure that we addressed anything that looked like it could create systemic risk. So again, the question is do the mid-size and the smaller banks, are they large enough as they start dropping like dominoes, as we're seeing with the New York bank, are they large enough to create systemic risk? If the Fed determines that they're not, either individually or cumulatively, able to make that big of an impact, then they're going to let the banks fail. They're going to let those banks fail. Why would they step in to help them out? I think that's, if you read between the lines on Yellen's comments, that's what I would take away from that. Last article I'll share today was from Bloomberg. It was out today. It says KKR mortgage REIT plunges as commercial property woes mount. KKR Real Estate Finance Trust, Inc., which invests in commercial mortgages, slumped after the company slashed its dividend to help it deal with souring loans. This is nothing new, but I'm going to keep reporting on it as new institutions report slash in dividends, a slash in numbers, more defaulting loans, giving back more of their properties that are non-performing, because it's important that everybody understands what is happening and what's unfolding. It says the Real Estate Investment Trust lowered its dividend to 25 cents a share, down by 42%, after the company realized a nearly $59 million loss on a Philadelphia office loan. It also added 2 multifamily assets, one in Raleigh, North Carolina, and one in San Diego, and a Seattle life sciences property to its watch list, signaling that commercial real estate woes extend beyond offices. So one, it's already taken a $59 million loss on, and they have 3 other properties they've already flagged or earmarked. Those are the next to go. It says shares plunged the most since March of 2020, falling nearly 15% and $10.01 at 10 a.m. a.m. New York. That was New York time yesterday, just being reported on today. It says KREF Chief Executive Officer Matt Salem said that the decision to cut the dividend was made in part to give his firm time to monetize assets taken back from borrowers. Monetize assets means they take the assets back at a huge loss and they have to sell them at a tremendous write-down. That's what monetizing that means. Selling it, converting it to cash, usually at a huge discount from what the bank is owed on that note. It says the company said on a call with analysts Wednesday that the firm is in discussions to sell 2 of the 4 properties tied to the Philadelphia loan. So this continues to unfold every day. We have another REIT, another commercial property owner, holder in trouble. And this is going to continue to impact the banks. So tomorrow's, just briefly, tomorrow's deposition is, if any of you care, I do get comments that you like to hear about this. I represent the owner of a piece of commercial property, and the lawsuit is against the general contractor who we've alleged in the lawsuit undertook a whole lot of improvements on the property, pouring and of gutters, of driveway aprons, of handicap walkways, and then realizing that the wall that was constructed was not actually on the property line. And in this case, we have the contractor named and a survey company named as defendants. And so, what happened was a lot of these improvements had to be torn out after the fact and redone because everything had to shift over several feet due to the property line miscalculation. So it's kind of a messy one, and we're going to be deposing, or I'll be deposing tomorrow, the general contractor to get this person under oath, committed to what transpired, what happened, and so it should be an interesting day. This one's going to be in person versus Zoom because the witness is local. So with that being said, again, I'll probably not see you till Friday. Hope all of you have a great rest of your couple days. Please get your exercise in. please get your steps, walk, do some strength training, watch the diet, meaning everything that you take in, calories in, is important. I don't count calories per se. I just don't have the time or the desire to do that. I'm just trying to watch, what I eat. Just avoid really dumb stuff. I avoid sugars, really, mostly all sugars. I avoid processed foods. I try to avoid really heavy fatty foods, like bad type of fatty foods, salad dressings, things like that. So you can make modifications in your diet that you don't have to starve yourself. So keep that in mind. Hope this content was helpful today. Again, thank you for subscribing, and I'll see all of you in a couple days. Have a great night. Bye.